broken. Now, I don't know how you broke the bell,
I
but
broke it.
whatever.
Okay, just a minute. Can you hear that?
Can we buy a new bell? Is there a budget for that or not?
Well, they're about $300.
I was
Oh,
thinking
what about
these,
just a bell? I mean, you can go to Walmart and get a bike bell or something. It'd
Oh,
be.
we have a bell of that sort, I
I
think.
had a little bell, but I've lost it. But
I
Okay,
don't
are
think we
you?
got to spend $300 to get a bell.
It's a rotary bell. Okay,
Well, we'll pretend it's a rotary bell.
are you recording,
Yeah,
Howard?
it's on. It's on.
Okay. Okay.
are we?
Ready? And I've got the prayer. Bless our friendship today and bless this meeting. As we meet here today as members of Rotary, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our services to fellow citizens and to our community. Let's continue to strive to make a better world. Amen.
Okay, if you'll join me in the pledge and pretend I'm standing, but I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to the
to the
flag
flag
The
of the United States of America
and to
and to
the
the
republic
republic
which it
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, well, today we went out delivering new district directories. We had 4 people on the list. The first 3 were not there, so we left it for them.
Okay.
And the 4th one was Rick. We spent almost an hour and a half with Rick. And I don't know, Linda, I'd say he's not doing real well, but he's not doing real bad. But after all, when they cut your head open and do surgery on your brain, this is not outpatient surgery. It takes a while to.
He may be moving to another room, maybe tomorrow or the next day. They're looking at another room in the same campus, but another room. So call before you go if you want to go over there.
Why are they moving him? What's wrong with the room?
It's a different room and it's a different level of care.
Oh, okay.
He's
So-
been in the more like intensive care, if you wish.
Okay.
And he's going to move to a more normal room
Okay.
where they're still going to come in and look after him, but they don't have, they feel he's recovered enough that he needs, he's not ready to go home, but he doesn't need as much intensive care as he did before.
Okay.
He was
Okay.
going to try to get onto the meeting tonight, but I don't know. I'm apparently not going to make it.
Well, I just have a couple of announcements. One is our governor's visit on the 15th. It's going to be at the Dindy's Casa de Dindy, and with more information, but please try to be on.
Send me the address and I'll put it in an email.
Okay. And then the other is Challenge Air is at the Mesquite Airport this time on October the 19th. That's a Saturday. And so any people that want to come out and help load up kids. This is a project that was started about 25 years ago by a Rotarian. The local Rotarians who have planes, they will volunteer and take up physically, mentally challenged kids for about a 20-minute plane ride around Dallas, and they let them hold the controls for probably a couple of seconds, but they figure if they can fly a plane, they can do anything, and then when they get off, they're given a certificate as a certified co-pilot, and then the captain takes his wings off and gives it to the child. And so it's a really good thing. We do about 120 kids, 150. And they really enjoy it, and it's always really good. We help load up the kids.
We will typically do 5 to 7 kids, hour or two.
Sorry.
Bless,
Thank you.
bless you.
I'm out of town then. That's when we're going away. I remember I'm going away for about 3-4 weeks. But I
I
am
know,
going
but you'll
to
be back in town because on the 15th you'll be back.
I'll be back for that, and I'll be there for the Halloween party with the
Okay.
Grapevine Rotary.
Speaking of which, the Halloween party, we've been getting 20 or so kids. They're expecting 62. Isn't that right, Linda?
About 60 to 70. Right now they have around 60, but people keep registering. So it may be as many as 70 now for kindergarten through third grade.
We'll have
And
to
that'll
do
be
more
on
than one
October.
shift then. We'll have to do a couple of shifts.
Well, actually, no, they're going to put us in a bigger room, I think.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
we'll work it out, though.
All right, I will be there. I put that on my calendar. I will be there.
Yeah, we depend on you.
We gotta
Thank you.
buy
I enjoy
more
it. I
cups.
enjoy working with the little kids. It's fun.
Okay, that's all I've got, David.
And I just have the workshop next Saturday. Anyone who wants to come, I sent it out in the email, and they're welcome to come as a club member. And it's a 4-hour. It's my full 4-hour reading program. You will read 100% faster, remember better, and understand more in the 4 hours, and that'll allow you to stay on top of anything you want for the rest of your life.
Okay, because David's been reading this one book for a month.
No, it shouldn't take you more than an hour and a half, 2 hours tops.
This one's a complicated book.
All right, so I did a graduate course in educational psych in 7 hours, and I got a B plus on the AP test in 50 minutes instead of 6 hours. So you can do it in 7 hours. Even like things like engineering books, you should be able to do it in a day easily.
I remember in school, and I was aeronautical engineering, the business guys would say, we got to read 8 pages in the book tonight. And I'd say, we've only got 4 pages, one of which says, it can easily be shown that they lied. It cannot be easily shown. It takes several hours to get through one paragraph.
Okay, are we ready for the speaker, David?
I'm ready.
Okay, Howard.
Well, Anne is going to teach us how to be exceptional, and she's gracious enough to speak to our group today. I want to welcome her. She's a fellow Rotarian. And Anne, it's all yours. I may mute my mic so you don't get background noise, but if you have questions you want us to answer, I'll unmute.
Yeah, which club?
She's from Minneapolis.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm actually not presently a part of a Rotary. I was part of a Rotary for 5 years. I've spoken at many Rotaries, and I've done Rotary regional conference where they bring me in and they pay me to speak. And I now, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. So I have 5 books now, and I think when they brought me in regionally, they had me do my topic, which is called Ride of a Lifetime. I have been a professional speaker for 6 years, so I've traveled all over the world, U.S. and Europe, to speak and teach. I just finished my term as president of the National Speakers Association in Minnesota. So Howard had reached out to me a few times to say, do you want to speak at our Rotary? Do you want to do this? And I said, you live in Texas. He said, no problem. We do it online. So what I'd like to do is just tell you a little bit about what I do and why I do it, and then invite you to have questions and try to answer those questions as well. So like I said, I've been speaking professionally for 6 years, but I've been speaking for about 25 years, first in the faith community with middle schoolers, senior high kids, women's ministries, retreats, and couples. And then I own gyms. I worked in the financial industry for 9 years on the institutional side, and ended up with 5 promotions. And at the age of 30, U.S. Bank bought our company, and I decided to retire. We had 3 kids, and a couple of years later, we start buying gyms. And so I owned 2 gyms for 12 years and just recently sold the last one. So I started in the faith community, moved into health and wellness, but everywhere I spoke, people wanted more. They wanted me to teach them things. My background, really, why I have such passion about speaking, is I was raised by a single mom in the middle of 7 kids born in 8 years. So by the time I was 18, I had moved 83 times. And at 18, I was on the Oprah Winfrey Show as an exceptional teenager. Now, I would not have described myself as that, but an organization in Minneapolis told her that I would be a great representative. So that's kind of a little bit of backstory. But then I started to write, and I'll get to the exception, but I want to just tell you first kind of how my journey went. And so when I, unlike Howard, I do not like to read at all. In fact, I was diagnosed with dyslexia at 6. I didn't learn to read at all till 3rd grade. And even to this day, my spelling is terrible and words look backwards to me. So when I would speak, people would say, write a book, Annie. And so I said, I hate writing. And they said, well, write something that will be easy for us to read. So this was my first book I wrote, and it's called Past Detours and Possibilities. And really, it looks almost like a blank book. I don't know how well you can see. But what it's filled with is questions and quotes and short stories. And I wrote it as a tool because a lot of people want to write a book, but very few people will take the time to actually do it. But within all of us are stories and lessons. And so this is filled with questions, quotes, and short stories to inspire you. But being that not everyone's a writer, people say to me, Annie, I took your book and I have a teenage son that doesn't talk much. So I answered page 4, put it on his bed, hoping he'd answer page 5. And we've passed your book back and forth for a year. He still doesn't talk much, but I know more about him and he knows more about me. So that was the first powerful email about this, which reminds me, whatever we do, it can always be expanded beyond where we start, okay? The next one is somebody used it for date night and started having better conversations and dreaming again. And then somebody else used it to interview their sister that was dying in hospice. So this first book I wrote just to satisfy people to say that I had a book, but it's not really a book. And then I was speaking at a conference and a woman said to me after I got done, she said, oh my gosh, you got to write a story. And I said, oh, I've been writing for 20 years a book called Dumpster to Dynasty about growing up in a physical, financial, and emotional dumpster. And today living this dynasty life where I travel all around the world and I inspire others. We take in a lot of teens. We always have food. We always have an extra bed. People are always welcome here. And she said, don't write that. And I said, why? And she said, because there's enough memoirs in the world, Annie. We want to know, how do you become like you? How do you come out of so much pain, so much darkness, and become positive and become generous? She said, you broke the cycle and you became the exception. And so the book that Howard chose for me to speak to you about, the topic that is kind of my main keynote, is called Be the Exception, 7 Steps to Transformation. And so I will come back to this in a minute, but what I will say about this book is that people literally write to me, I've never read a book, I finished yours in an hour. I've never read a book, but I carry yours with me every day because it changed my life. I'm never going to yell again. I'm never going to be angry again. You've taken away every excuse I had to be bitter, and you've helped me learn to be better. So it's been this awesome tool that I took from a memoir to a self-help book, and it won a national award, the Ben Franklin Award, in the category of self-help. Unfortunately, I received the award in Portland, and I was speaking in Minneapolis that day. So a fellow National Speakers Association female was in an online group with me. I've never met her. She said, I'll go. And I said, I won't win, but you get a nice dinner. Well, she ended up going to that. But because I wrote this book for all people, churches ask me to speak a lot still. And they say, why isn't this a Christian book? And I said, because all people deserve love, hope, healing, and forgiveness. And they said, can you teach us what God says about how to live an exceptional life? So I took the 7 steps and I went back to scripture and said, Lord, what do you say of how to live these out? Okay. And then the next book was my easiest book to write. And I sold 100 before I wrote it because look, there's writing on the first page, but there's no writing on any of the other pages. And the reason I sold 100 of these before is, have you heard of a gratitude journal? Yes, right? They've been around since the 1980s. Oprah made them popular. Well, I believe that it's great to write down 3 things you're grateful for every night and to get up every morning and read those. You end your day positive. You start your day positive. But gratitude, if we think about it, is really all about us. I have a job. I have a place to sleep. I have food. I have this, me. And I think it's good to be grateful. But I honestly think you can only live a good life if you're grateful. I ask people, in addition to writing down what you're grateful for, I want you to write down, what did you give away today? Did you give away kindness? Did you smile at someone? Did you buy someone a coffee? Did you hold the door? Did you let someone in on the freeway? Because I think when we go from a grateful life where we have a good life to a generous life, we can go from good to great. And so that's why the company said, we want you to help our employees. They were celebrating their 100th year anniversary. We want you to help them understand that it's not all about them and what they get. It's about how we support each other as teams and as leaders to influence others. And then my most recent book that just came out, and my vision for this one is that there will be 1 million copies all over the world, is called The Pineapple Principle. And even if you're a slow reader, it only takes you about 10 to 15 minutes to read. It's just a teeny little book. And I took a pineapple poem, and because I believe all people have a story behind their story, I said, what does this pineapple poem have to teach us? What is it that we need to know beyond just standing up and being sweet? But the book that you guys have chosen for me to really talk about, the topic that's kind of become my main topic, I've written 5 books now, and then I have 3 workbooks, Exceptional Living, Exceptional Sales, and Exceptional Leadership. And then I have an online course, is Be the Exception. And when I was writing this book, and I was asking myself, how can I teach people to become like me, not me, but live the lifestyle that I live, come out of bitterness, whether it's a death or divorce or diagnosis, and be a happy, positive, generous person. And like I said, I had 3 siblings, I have 3 sisters older than me, 3 brothers younger than me. In 8 years, 3 generations of unnecessary loss is what I call it. My father drank himself to death. My brother took his life 1 week after his 22nd birthday and 1 day after my 23rd. And 22 years later, his son took his life. And so I had to tell people, how did I come out of all this darkness and many other things and become a light in the world and decide to share joy and love and generosity? And I have a sister that always asks me, why are you nice to people? People weren't nice to us. Why are you so nice? I think it's a choice. I think that every day we get to get up and decide, do we live by choice, by chance, or by circumstance? And for me personally, I want to live by choice, and I want to make good choices every day to affect people. So I didn't want to give you more to do because I think most people's plates are pretty full. And so I thought, how can I show you a way of being without having to do more? And so the first step is be honest. And if you would just write in the chat box, what do you think? Why would I say that the first step that we all need to do is be honest? What do you think that I think that you are doing why I would write be honest? What do I think most people do? And trust me, I'm very positive, so I don't think that you're lying. So what do I think that you are doing?
I'm having trouble with my connection, so I'm...
Go ahead, Linda. You can just tell us.
Okay, but anyway, one of the Rotary 4-way tests is it the truth?
Yeah. And so for me, it's not that I think, and I know that test, but I don't think people are liars. And I think everyone in the audience, no matter how many people I speak to, from 2 to 10,000, does this. And you do it every day, and you do it most of your day, and you most of the time do it silently to yourself. And for me, my stories might have been bigger or darker than some of yours, but we all have stories. And so what I believe is that you have a story. You have a story that you're telling yourself over and over. In 12 years of owning gyms, people would say, well, I've always been fat. Well, my family's unhealthy. Well, this is just the way it is. Well, what happens with those stories is that if we tell them enough out loud or in the back of our head, we start to believe them as true. So I was told as a child, because I didn't know how to read, you're stupid. You're not smart. At least you're pretty, my dad would say. You're sexy because you'll never amount to anything. So that messaging that we say about ourselves or about other people, they don't work as hard as I do, they don't show up, nobody cares as much as I do, that messaging that we repeat starts to become our truth. And so what I want people to do is challenge every thought and ask themselves, is this actually a true story or is it just a story? So when I'm working with someone in a financial situation, they say, I'm always broke. I say, wow, do you get some money? Well, yes. What are you spending it on? Because the truth is you're not always broke. The truth is we're making a choice how we spend money. I only date jerks. Well, the truth is that maybe you need to be a little healthier so you can go to the right place and attract the right people. I can never get healthy. I can never have the right career. I work harder than everyone else. So people tell these stories out loud and in the back of their head, and then they start to live them out. So for me, the be honest came to, just because I came from this super dysfunctional, unhealthy family, my mother's mentally ill, undiagnosed, and untreated mental illness, doesn't mean that has to be my story or the story I teach my children. And so that was the first chapter, because I believe all people have stories, and often those stories don't serve you to live your best life. So the first step is be honest. The second one is be open. And it's really about who can you mentor and who can mentor you. It's about who has been the person that had the greatest influence on you. For me, I didn't grow up in a house where my parents were that for me. So I had to really pay attention. Was there a teacher? Was there a coach? Was there somebody in my life who showed up along the way and spoke into me that I could become, that they were proud of me? And so Be Open's a lot about mentorship. How can I be a better mentor, and how can I receive mentorship and learning? And really, I like to teach people that there's lessons to be learned every single day, even in the challenges, from somebody 100 all the way to somebody that's 3 years old. Sometimes the youngest people in our life are the wisest. And so it's about opening your eyes to see, be open to what is around you and who is around you, and not discounting people because they're too young or too old, but rather saying, I wonder what I can learn today. Wow, that was frustrating to me or challenging. What lesson did I learn? So being open to learning and being open to mentoring and being mentored. The next chapter is Be Healthy. And for me, I like to kind of make fun of being healthy because I think it's super confusing. And I think every day there's new media that says, don't eat this, or you must eat this, or you have to exercise this much, or you can't exercise that much. And I tell people, in the 12 years of gym ownership, I never, ever helped anyone lose weight. And I worked with thousands of clients. But I help people change their habits, their mindset, and their view of themselves. And in turn, a side effect was weight loss. And that really it's more about eating colorful foods and trying new things than about restriction. Because the people that I know that restrict themselves from candy or pop or whatever it is, then they can resist for a while and then they go and binge. But food does not have power. No beverage or food has power. We have a choice. And if it is unhealthy for us, it is best to make a choice to minimize or avoid those foods altogether. And so I walk through a whole thing that's called Canes that kind of teaches you about some of the silly stories and lessons I've learned through the journey of not only being a gym owner, but I was a lunch lady for 2.5 years, and how I love to teach kids how to love all foods. And be flexible. Be flexible is about the reality that change is coming. Change to our hair color, change to the styles, change to our career, change to our health, change to our relationships. And though I mean no disrespect, and I've lost and buried many people young, I'm always amazed at how shocked people are when people die, because that's part of our story. We're all going to die. And so when a change is going on in a company, when there's a merger or something, events happening, companies will call me in and say, help people feel good about this change, Annie. We want you to bring your spirit and your energy to teach us, how do we feel good about this change? And so I help people see this. I help you look at the darkest things, the most challenging, and say, even though I didn't want to walk through this, even though it was difficult, what is one good thing or two or three that came out of it? And so I love to teach about that, how to be flexible even when change is coming and we don't love it. What could be good about it? The next one is be gentle. So we all have stories and we have successes in those stories, but we also have struggles, and sometimes we have disappointment or we don't say or do the right thing. And so what I write about Be Gentle is, it's easy to label ourselves by our biggest failure or our biggest struggle. And so when I work with audiences, I always love to teach, what label are you still wearing that no longer serves you? So if you went through a divorce, and many people have gone through a divorce, and so people wear the label of divorce, and I feel like I was a failure, I failed at marriage, I'm a loser. People say horrible things about themselves. It's heartbreaking. I'm not saying any of that. But I say, what if we don't define ourselves by a divorcee? Instead, we say, I was married for this long, or I have raised my children well, or you know what? Relationships are challenging for me, so I'm going to work on my communication skills. I'm going to work on my financial skills, whatever it is. But I tell people, if we remove a label, if we take off the label and say I'm not smart or I'm not successful, if we have failure on ourselves for any reason, you can't just rip off the label. You need to replace it with something new. So for myself, I always thought I was stupid and I couldn't read. So that was a label I wore. Well, now I've written 5 books, 3 workbooks. I'm an award-winning author. So I have not just removed that label. I have said, how do I replace that? How do I find new words that I can identify with? And what do I have to do to find those new words and prove not only to the world, but to myself that I'm not that person just because I'm a slow reader, just because I'm dyslexic, just because I can't spell well does not mean that I'm stupid. And so that is another one. The next one is be courageous. And what I love about this, I have a topic called the ride of a lifetime. And I love to encourage, support, inspire people to set a goal beyond yourself. So a lot of people like to set physical goals, like I'll run a 5K, I'll do a marathon, I'll do a walk, whatever the cause, whatever the ideas. Now, you guys are in Rotary. I spent some time in the Dominican. I've gone on 4 mission trips, and I was in an area of the Dominican where the Rotary had built the playground there, and it's just such a powerful thing. And I know that the philosophy of Rotarian overall is service above self, right? That we're thinking about other people, but not all people think like that. So I love to say, okay, what is a goal that you think you couldn't do that is not just about you, but it's about beyond yourself? So in 1999, I had my last baby, and my girlfriend called me and said, let's go for a bike ride. It's too long of a story to go into all the details, but basically in January, I said yes to a bike ride. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't own a bike. I had never slept in a tent. I had ridden 4.5 miles in my life, and I knew no one with AIDS. And I got on my bike and I rode from Minneapolis to Chicago to raise money for AIDS. And it was one of the most physically, emotionally, spiritually challenging things I've ever done. And people were not nearly as supportive as I thought they would be. And yet, in the end, I figured out why I actually was doing it. It wasn't about weight loss. It wasn't about me looking good. It was about the difference we can make in the world when we set a goal beyond ourselves. And the last one is be authentic. Comparison is the thief of all joy. So when I think I'm looking good and I get on social media and someone looks better, or when my husband brings me 6 roses and someone else's husband brings him 12, comparison is the thief of all joy. It will steal our joy and it will replace it with envy. And so for me, when I was a little girl growing up, I wanted to be like anyone else. And ultimately I wanted to be anyone but myself. And when I learned to embrace my messy, my silly, my quirky, my strong, my wise, all of the parts of me, and then show up who I was and teach from who I actually am, not to be like someone else, but to bring my own value. My mastermind gave me the nickname Authentically Annie. And they said, you teach from your heart, you genuinely care about other people, and you share openly some of your struggles so that others may have grace and learning for themselves. And so be authentic is the 7th step. And it's the one that says, really be the best version of you. Stop comparing, stop trying to be like someone else. Instead, just embrace your gifts and strengths and bring them to the world to serve others. So those are the 7 steps. And that's kind of what I wanted to touch on tonight. Questions, feel free to write them or to ask them, whatever you would like.
I thought it was very good. It's an emotional intelligence strategy.
About being, not doing.
Well, unfortunately, so many people create their own problems by their thinking, and that's what you're helping. Showing them you're creating your own problem. It's not what's going on that's the problem. It's how you're thinking about it that's making it worse.
Exactly.
That's why I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Me too.
Excellent. Do you have
Well, I guess the comment, I designed airplanes for a living or parts.
Okay.
And the biggest problem, and the thing most people don't do, when they start a task, try to figure out what it is you're trying to accomplish. So many people just start drawing. And they don't know what they're trying to get done. And the one simple task of saying, what am I trying to do here? Works wonders.
Okay, Juliet has written several things in the chat. Did you see her chat?
Yeah.
I'm looking at it.
Sorry, guys, I have a noisy background here.
Oh, it's okay. But I was just looking at your chat and I didn't know if Annie saw it or not.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
No other questions?
Okay. And also, since we've started, Charlotte has come online on phone.
Hi, Charlotte.
Okay. You have a 200 video? Okay, good.
I have a question for Charlotte. Did you get your directory?
I was in Allen all day, so I'll be in the office tomorrow.
Okay.
But thank you for bringing it by. Was my staff were they nice to you?
Yes, they were.
Oh,
Both of them.
good.
deaf and I
Good.
know how to get there. It's not difficult, but
Okay. Anyway, Annie,
Yeah.
not
thank
that,
you so much. We appreciate your giving us your insight and everything, and taking the time to be with us.
If you'd like to join a Rotary Club, ours is online. We welcome you as a member.
Thank you, Howard.
I've got a friend lives in Louisiana. She's in a Rotary E-Club in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
So anyway,
So, David, you want to do the 4-way test?
you want to do it, Howard?
Oh, I could do it, sure. 4-way test are the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I will be speaking at the Forney Rotary this Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Is it
Nice.
Forney? Let me see. I know it's a trip. It's pretty far. Let me see where I'm going. Is it Forney?
It's not that far.
I'm going to Lufkin, not Forney. Lufkin.
Oh, yeah, that's a long distance.
Yeah, it's a big trip. I'm going to sleep over tomorrow and speak there Thursday.
Okay. Another change that just came up is that the North Dallas Club that meets Tuesday noon at the Greek Isle where we used to meet, they have changed their name to Preston Dinner. No,
Preston Hollow.
Preston Hollow. And they only meet once a month.
Oh, okay.
So you have to sort of call to see when they're going to be speaking.
Okay.
Okay? Alrighty then. I was trying to find my ringtone, but I can't find it.
So, ding,
So,
ding.
Take
Bye,
care. Nice to
everyone.
meet you
I'll
all.
see you next
thank
week.
you, Annie.
All
Thanks
right.
for speaking. And incidentally, you may not know Rotary zones are paired. Minneapolis is in our paired zone.
Oh,
So
cool.
our zone, 2 zones go from the southern end is Venezuela and Colombia. The northern end has Hudson Bay.
Oh, wow.
So,
All across the United States. I love it.
Bye,
All
everyone.
right, I gotta go have dinner. Good night, guys.
Good night.